tell you a little bit more about Student Government Association, I now welcome Sophia, the president.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming out. Sorry we started a little bit late. We had a few technological difficulties, but we're really excited to see you all out here. Student government really strives to advocate for all students, so it's really amazing to see a lot of people that aren't in SGA here tonight to witness this really amazing debate. We have a lot of really qualified candidates here tonight who have all worked incredibly hard to be where they are. So I hope you guys are ready for a very fiery and impassioned debate, because I know that I am. So we are going to do our raffle afterwards. So at the end, we're going to have a link that we give out to you via email if you're here, and then Q30 is going to blast it out if you're on the live stream. And then, you guys will be able to put your name for that. And also, while this is going on, you guys will be able to submit live questions that we will ask. And Kay's going to speak a little bit more about the structure of the debate before we begin. But make sure you guys are asking some good questions to these candidates tonight, because this is the first time in a while that we've asked candidates questions live, which we're very excited about. So we hope you guys are ready for a really awesome night. And thank you very much for caring about the work that we're doing as student government, because this year has been a tough one, and the next one's going to be equally as important as this one. So we really appreciate you guys being here. And I will turn it back over to Kay.
All right. Now, in order to provide a unified experience for all the candidates tonight and for those watching at home, we will be adhering to a debate structure as outlined by Student Government Association. That structure is as follows. Each debate will begin with a brief summary of the position the candidate or candidate is running for. Each candidate will have the opportunity to provide a 2-minute opening statement. Each candidate will then answer 4 questions provided by Student Government Association, Q30 News, and the student body. The candidates will have 1 minute to respond directly to the question that is asked. Candidates will have the opportunity to provide a 30-second rebuttal, only to address the other candidate's response to the question. Now, the rebuttal must directly address a point brought by the other candidate. At the close, the candidates will have the opportunity to provide a 2-minute closing statement. All time will begin on the first word, and a sign will be displayed at each candidate. The sign?
It's 1 minute closing.
1 minute closing. Again, this debate structure is provided by Q30 Television tonight by the Student Government Association. We will now begin tonight with the position of the Chief Justice. To overview the position, the responsibilities of the Chief Justice include, but are not limited to, chairing the Judicial and Ethics Board, coordinating all grievance processes within SGA, being familiar with all SGA governing documents, retaining all governing documents, and ensuring the privacy of all confidential information. I now welcome the candidate for Chief Justice, Melanie Lugo.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Melanie Lugo and I'm running for Chief Justice. Since the spring of my freshman year, I've had the privilege of serving as a non-senator justice on the Judicial and Ethics Board. I believe that my prior experience on the board these past 2 years has prepared me to fulfill the duties of Chief Justice if I were to be elected. Throughout my time on the board, I've learned how important it is to hold the rest of Student Government Association accountable in order to make sure they are appropriately representing the university community and abiding by the governing documents. I hope that after tonight, it is clear as to why I'm the best candidate for Chief Justice.
All right, your first question is, how do you define ethics and how will you apply it to your position next year?
I believe that ethics are the morals that you follow when handling situations, and I believe that the Chief Justice needs to act morally when deciding things.
As the Judicial and Ethics Board meets on an as-needed basis, how frequently do you plan to utilize your board, and what projects are you planning to pursue in addition to the basic requirements of the role, if any?
As Chief Justice, I would love to just communicate a lot more with the rest of the board just to keep everyone up to date. As you said, it is an as-needed basis, so I would like to continue to communicate, just have like weekly check-ins hopefully, and talk with that. I'm sorry, could you repeat the last part?
Yeah, for sure. So it was, as the Judicial Ethics Board meets as an as-needed basis, how frequently do you plan to utilize your board, and what projects are you planning to pursue in addition to the basic requirements of the role, if any?
As of right now, I don't foresee any new projects. I would just like to continue to keep the board running smoothly as it has been in the past.
How do you plan to hold yourself to the same standard that you will be keeping other members of the Student Government Association to?
So I plan to hold myself to the same standards as just acting extremely ethical as I would be holding the rest of the organization to, and I will continue to be unbiased in all the situations that come up.
All right, thank you very much.
Do I have to do my closing statement? Yeah, okay, sorry. Thank you again for coming out tonight and tuning in virtually to listen. Thank you for allowing me to show you why I'm the best candidate for Chief Justice. I hope that my prior experience and dedication to the Judicial and Ethics Board has stood out to you and has encouraged you to vote Melanie Lugo for Chief Justice on Tuesday. Thank you.
All right, so at this time, we are going to have our candidate for Vice President for Finance come up to the podium. Just make sure, hold that microphone closer to you when you talk. That's the blushing one's the one with the cord. All right, so for those of you who don't know, some of the Vice President for Finance's general duties are to serve as the chair of the Finance Committee, collaborate with the SGA financial assistants to maintain an accurate record of all auditing, financial transactions, and other financial procedures, and assist the SGA financial assistant in overseeing all financial transactions between organizations and vineyards. The Vice President for Finance also serves as a financial advisor to funded organizations to ensure they remain aware of their respective financial situations and current student government finance policies. Whenever you're ready, you can start your 2-minute opening statement.
Good evening, Quinnipiac student body. My name is Cameron Davignon, and I'm running to be your Student Government Association Vice President for Finance for the 2021-2022 academic year. Tonight you'll be hearing from all the candidates for each SGA Executive Board position, all of which are some of the most committed and experienced student leaders Quinnipiac has to offer, seeking to serve in roles that are imperative to ensuring university leadership is fully aware of student wants and needs, and student organization processes run as smoothly as possible. Whether you're watching online or sitting here in front of me in the audience, I encourage you to close your homework, put your phone down, and truly pay attention to what each candidate has to say tonight, as these elected members of the student body are the ones that will have the power to shape your student experience, regardless of how much time you have left here in Hamden. In terms of my own platform for VP for Finance, I want to focus on ensuring that SGA finance policies and procedures are as logical and efficient as possible, promote equal access to funding for all student organizations, no matter their purpose or previous level of student engagement, empower and encourage student organizations to put on bigger and better events for the entire student body, and act as a liaison between administrators and students on financial matters. I want you to know how strongly I recognize that most student leaders are among the busiest people on campus, and the amount of time and effort they put in above and beyond their academic responsibilities is a testament to their impressive commitment to Bobcat Nation. In this position, I will give my utmost support to student leaders by making their lives as easy as possible by reviewing SGA finance policies and procedures and working to make them less cumbersome and as streamlined as possible. I will also continue in Barbora's footsteps by emphasizing the need for all student organizations to put on events that are fully accessible and marketed to the whole student body. Thank you for being here tonight, and please vote Tuesday on DUQU.
would you mind just bringing that to me, and I'll just speak it with that? Yeah, that's fine. I really appreciate it. And I'll just walk it back to you. All right, your first question. In your platform, you outlined some large projects you wish to accomplish. How do you plan on balancing this with the everyday job requirements that finance requires?
So in the past here at Quinnipiac, I've definitely been really involved through a lot of different avenues. But next year, and especially next semester, I'm definitely going to be dialing back on my other commitments. SGA will be my main focus and the main organization that I'm involved in, besides my schoolwork. And among that, I also don't need as many classes to fulfill my graduation requirements, so I won't be even quite as overloaded with school. So in terms of just time commitment, I will truly have more time to commit to the position. So I think that's why I have such big goals. I want to combine both being very active on a daily basis in terms of the needs of VP for Finance, as well as striving to make long-term changes that are better for all students and all student organizations. So I think it's really exciting for me, and I'm glad I'm going to have the time to put in.
We have seen a decrease in spending by student organizations due to the COVID-19 pandemic. How do you plan to ensure that the entire budget is being spent during this academic year, especially if guidelines about capacity are still in place?
So I think for me, it starts with some ideas that I've already had in terms of reducing restrictions for what student orgs can spend money on. I think there's an opportunity for just more spending based on things that they already request that we just currently can't fund because of policies. So I definitely want to change those policies to give them more freedom in terms of their spending, to definitely spend the whole budget that we're given. I think it's definitely something very important that the VP for Finance should always be focused on. And as a Finance Committee member, it's definitely something that has always been on my mind, and I was constantly asking, where are we at? And I just wanted to, continue to be involved with that. So I'm definitely looking to loosen up those restrictions, along with encourage student orgs to be creative when it comes to deciding on the events that they could put on, especially in a continuing pandemic world potentially.
The finance assistant was hired 2 years ago to work solely with SGA Vice President for Finance. You've stated that allowing student organizations a direct line of contact with this person would, quote, make our lives easier. As a financial assistant maintains strict hours, having the financial assistant field more student concerns would decrease the amount of purchases that student organizations could make in a week. Could you elaborate on which model you support and why?
So I think there's an opportunity for a kind of mixture of both of those models. I recognize that having to go through a middleman basically to get in contact with the financial assistant is cumbersome for student orgs, but I of course also recognize that the financial assistant is a paid job position that the person only has so much time to give it on a week. So I think both myself having more time along with just the changing role as we continue ideally out of the pandemic with more purchases being made. I think there's an opportunity for both to occur, for there to be instances where they could be contacted directly, but still those where it would have to go through myself or members of the finance committee. So of course student leaders understand basically everything about this, that currently you have to go through a finance committee member, but like I said, I think there's a possibility for that to be more of a mixed model, so I don't necessarily support one or the other.
You may say your 1-minute closing statement.
So first of all, I wanted to thank Q30 for hosting this important event tonight, and basically all of student media for promoting elections and holding SGA accountable as you do at all times. I think that's definitely something media should continue to do, so I'm happy to see that that's currently the model that Quinnipiac student media follows. And I can assure you that every candidate here tonight will work incredibly hard to continue dispelling the myth that SGA doesn't do anything, because it's simply not true. Through the support of you, the student body, and all student leaders, SGA can and will make a difference in the Quinnipiac community and improve the student experience for all Bobcats. Trust me, I've seen it firsthand, and the work won't stop once we've elected this new e-board. So please, please, please don't forget to check your email Tuesday morning at 8 and click the link to vote on DUQU. Thank you for watching tonight, and I hope you enjoy these debates.
Yeah, I'm sorry about this. We just got a question from the students, and I want to make sure you get your full 4 questions if there are them. So if you don't mind just answering this briefly. So the question from the audience says, I know as a member of the Quinnipiac community, I value transparency. How will you work to make the financial budget transparent to all?
So I'm glad this question was asked, and I actually recently organized a meeting between myself, other SGA members, and university leadership, which included CFO Mark Varholic and CXO Tom Ellett, and we discussed their perspective on spending and investment from the university's capital budget, which is based on student tuition, along with the university endowment, which is really made from donations from previous alumni and even current students and especially alumni that have been very successful. So I think it's very important for me to continue acting as a liaison between those people and the student body. So no matter your education, whether you're educated in finance and economics or anything like that, students will be able to understand specifically what money is being spent on. So for me, I tend to take this role into more of an advocacy position instead of just performing the technical details of VP for Finance. And I definitely plan to advocate for more financial transparency from university leadership.
Thank you very much. Go ahead and take your seat now. All right, up next, we will have our candidates for Vice President for Public Relations take the stage. The Vice President for Public Relations duties are to serve as the chair of the Public Relations Committee, coordinate all community service projects for the Student Government Association, update and advance all Student Government Association social media accounts and websites, promote Student Government Association initiatives, events, and general affairs, and report Student Government Association updates to media outlets as needed.
Good evening, Bobcats. My name is Karina Downs, and I'm running to be your next Vice President for Public Relations. With my passion and dedication to this organization and you, I will be sure to make an impact on you and our campus community. Being the only candidate to have served on the PR committee, working closely with the former and current Vice President for Public Relations, I have a deep understanding for this position and the responsibilities I will have. If elected, I have 4 main pillars that I will work diligently to complete: inclusivity, community, opportunity, and most importantly, you. In terms of inclusivity, my goal is to make sure all voices are heard. After being one of the many SGA members to help publish the recent resolution sent to administration, it is my goal to continue calling administration to action whenever there is injustice or discontent feeling among the student body. I plan to collect student opinions more frequently and in a more effective way, ensuring every voice is heard and every issue is addressed. Let me be clear. Statements and emails from administration are not enough, and they never were. It's time to advocate for real change, and I'm confident that I can be the driver of that change as an SGA e-board member. As for community, I plan to consistently reach out to the executive board members of all student organizations, fully grasping the purpose of the organization and collaborating with them on ways I can help promote their mission and events. With this, I hope to increase each organization's membership and advocate for stronger community involvement from all QU students. Moving into my opportunity pillar, I want to involve each member of our Bobcat family in SGA initiatives. Transparency is a key issue in our organization, and if I can be more transparent by frequently publishing what SGA is working on, increasing student opinions and feedback, and working directly with the students who want to see this change, then administration will have to work with us to see the changes we want. Lastly, it's all about you. I'm dedicated to making an impact on this campus, and it starts with the students. Your voices matter. Your voices are meant to be heard. And with me at the forefront, I will ensure they are. A vote for me is a vote for change, accountability, and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for being here tonight. I don't want to stand up here and tell you that I deserve this position. I want everyone to understand by the end of the night how much passion, devotion, and drive I have for this organization. Since I first stepped foot on campus, I knew I wanted to have a lasting impact. And after my meeting with Esau on my first day, I was sure that SGA was a place to accomplish my goal. At the first information session, I remember listening to Sophia Marshall and Austin Calvo talk about how much dedication and passion they had for this organization. Their leadership inspired me to stand where I am today. Over the past 2 years, I served as a class of 2023 president and have grown so much as a person because of the people that I work with and all the work that I've put into this organization. If I'm your vice president of public relations, here is what will get done. The first thing, I will use my optimism and creativity to create and continue fun events and traditions to improve school spirit all around campus, like Bobcat Fridays and our new event, Bobcat Day. I will also raise election awareness by making a video of current SGA leaders talk about why they decided to get involved. Next is to reach uninvolved students by using SGA Instagram to feature a leader once a week in a club or organization and have them talk about why they chose that club and why students should get involved. I will also hold monthly Do You QU workshops so students can learn how to search for clubs and organizations that might be interesting to them. I can also show them what steps are needed to start clubs that they want to start on their own. Lastly, I would use this position to maintain and improve the reputation of SGA by highlighting the work SGA is currently doing. Right now, we don't post about initiatives that we're working on because of the belief it's bad to prematurely talk about uncompleted initiatives. But I believe if the students know what we're doing and support our ideas, that administration will be more inclined to approve what we're working on. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to answering all your questions. Yeah.
Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Alyssa and I'm a junior nursing major and I'm running to be the Student Government Association Vice President for Public Relations. Now here's just a little about me. I've been involved in Quinnipiac's SGA for 2 years, but I've had many more years of student government experience in the past. I'm fully equipped in all skills related to public relations such as publicizing, promoting, and outreach. Now here's why you should vote for me. I'm experienced. I have my own small business, and in just under a year, I've gained just under 2,000 followers and have made over 200 sales. That included making an Instagram account as well as a TikTok account and using influencers as PR for my business. Next, I am dedicated. I have made SGA the one and only thing I'm involved in on campus, and have put my all into being an active member in this organization. I don't like to stretch myself too thin, so if elected, my priority would be this position and making sure I'm available and transparent to students. Finally, I'm creative. I've come up with multiple ideas of how to get connected with the Bobcat community through social media, such as Bobcat Student Spotlights to highlight students more often and weekly initiative idea giveaways to make sure we are listening to the students and working on what they want to see. Thank you for your time, and I hope to be able to serve you all in the future as the Vice President for Public Relations.
So you just heard our Vice President for Public Relations candidates, Alyssa Baker, Brenna Downs, and Carmine Grifo, give their opening statements. Our first question is going to go to Alyssa first, and then Carmine and Brenna are both going to have an opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal. They do not have to rebuttal. If they do not want to rebuttal, they just say no rebuttal. So, Alyssa, your first question, and then the question's going to be asked both of you as well. So, Alyssa, your first question is, the constant narrative that individuals here is that, quote, SGA does nothing. What do you plan to do to educate students throughout the entire year in order to combat this narrative?
Okay, so first I would just like to say that I think social media has become our friend in amidst of this pandemic. So I think this will be a really great platform to use to really advertise everything that SGA has been working on. And I think just really making sure that students are educated and know what we're working on, I think would be a great way for us to kind of promote what we're doing and how we're still working on things for students. And I think also working on things that they actually want to see would be a really great way to show them that we're actually trying to work on what they want. So like I was saying before, the initiative ideas that I'm going to be gathering from students would be a great way to get those ideas and share them with the fellow student government members. Thank you. Let's give this to him.
All right, so Carmine, you now have an opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal.
No rebuttal.
Brennan? No rebuttal. All right, so Carmine, the same question to you. The constant narrative that individuals hear is that, quote, SGA does nothing. What do you plan to do to educate students throughout the entire year in order to combat this narrative?
So as I said in my opening statement, I believe that right now we work on a handful of initiatives as student government, and the students don't really even know what we're working on. The notion that we shouldn't prematurely release what we're working on before it's completed because administration could shut it down, I don't like that at all. I think as Vice President of Public Relations, we need to be transparent with the students, because if the students back us, the school is going to back us, and administration is going to take that into their heads, and it's going to get done. So that's where I am with that.
Alyssa, do you have a rebuttal? No rebuttal. Brennan, do you have a rebuttal?
Yes. My only worry about telling students what we are working on a little bit too early is that they might get their hopes up and administration may not actually follow through with what they say they might or what has been approved. So I think prematurely we should not be advertising what we're working on, but gathering student opinions and asking, is this something you would like to see?
All right, Brennan, same question to you. The constant narrative that individuals hear is that, quote, SGA does nothing. What do you plan to do to educate students throughout the entire year in order to combat this narrative?
Similar to most, but I also want to use not just Instagram. I think some other social media platforms have kind of gone off our radar, specifically like TikTok. I think that is going to be a big thing leading up to different initiatives that we could be working on, kind of showcasing what we've been doing and everything like that. So again, SGA does not do nothing, as we all know. But even more frequent opinions gathered from the student body, giving out more emails or Instagram polls and stuff like that to make sure everybody knows what's going on.
Any rebuttals to that one?
No rebuttal.
Okay, the next question. In the past year, we have seen many organizations begin to release statements on matters of racial bias within our own campus community and within the nation. Many students have felt that statements can be baseless and unimportant, while others feel that saying nothing shows complacency. What is your stance on releasing statements and responses to instances of these nature, and how would you go about them if you chose to release them? Maybe we'll start with Carmine.
So this is something that's like sparked my interest, like where I come from home and coming into college. This is something that I've grown into. All the racial stuff in the last year has really changed me as a person. I believe that with PR, this releasing statements is one of the most important things we can do, because if our school's not going to do it, once we start doing it, then Quinnipiac wants to do it. When Sophia released her first statement, then Quinnipiac released a statement, because we are the voice of the students. This is something that's so important to us and so important to the students, and we need to be transparent with everybody in that sense. I believe that releasing a statement is very important, and the seriousness of it is perfect. So thank you.
Are there any rebuttals? You can go to Serena.
Can you repeat the question?
So the question is, in the past year, we have seen many organizations begin to release statements on matters of racial bias within our own campus community and within the nation. Many students have felt that statements can be baseless and unimportant, while others feel that saying nothing shows complacency. What is your stance on releasing statements in response to instances of these nature, and how would you go about them if you choose to release them?
I think releasing statements, as Carmine said, is the most important thing we can do as student government. I have worked closely with this year's current e-board to release the resolutions that we had put out for the hate towards the AAPI communities as well as the commuter fee. Again, these are extremely important, especially since we are sending them to administration, and they have to act on what we release. I think if we continue to do that, administration will see that the students are more important than whatever they've got going on in their minds in terms of just releasing an email. As I said in my opening statement, their statements and emails to the students are not cutting it. We need to see real change, and I'm going to be the forefront of that change for all of you because it's the most important thing I can do in this role.
Are there any rebuttals to that statement? Okay, Alyssa, your question. In the past year, we've seen many organizations begin to release statements on matters of racial bias within our own campus community and within the nation. Many students have felt that statements can be baseless and unimportant, while others feel that saying nothing shows complacency. What is your stance on releasing statements in response to instances of these nature, and how would you go about them if you choose to release them?
So I feel that both candidates, like they were saying, is really important to release statements on these instances. I also feel that premature releasing these statements also doesn't really help as well. So I actually really appreciated the way that the e-board handled it this year, where when regarding the AAPI acts, where they released a statement saying that they were going to meet and discuss with members of organizations that were affected by these instances, and then they were going to release the final statement after that. And I think that was really touched by a lot of students, and I think that they really liked the way that that was handled. So if I was elected to this position, I would handle it the same way. And I just think that it's a more effective way of handling situations like that.
Does anybody have a rebuttal? Okay. The next question will start with Corinna. The question is, what makes you the best candidate for this position because, What makes you the best candidate for this position? Because on top of your own committee, you have to market other things in the organization and other initiatives being done. How will you achieve this? So essentially, with PR, there's a lot going on in terms of your own initiatives. How do you also, on top of that, deal with the initiatives of the president, the vice president, the VP for IDE, et cetera?
I definitely have the time management skills to get all of this work done, but I'm also extremely creative in making sure that promoting what SGA is doing is going to be accurately represented to our campus community. I have worked very closely with the former and current Vice President for Public Relations. I am the only candidate that has served on the Public Relations Committee this year, and that's going to be extremely important. I know all of the roles that this position has, and I am confident that I can get all of that done, given my skills and creativity, time management, and everything like that.
Are there any rebuttals from candidates?
Rebuttal. So you say that you're the only candidate that serves on the PR, but I haven't served on the PR. She's correct in that. But having a clean slate with PR is something that I feel is very important for Alyssa and I both. Since we haven't served on it before, we can bring our own creative ideas, never seen before, to PR.
Alyssa, do you have a rebuttal? Okay, Carmine, same question to you. So in light of the fact that you have your own initiatives to PR with your committee, and also on top of that having the initiatives of other cabinets and of the organization as a whole. How do you plan to manage that, and how will you achieve transparency for the org throughout?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. If anybody's been following my campaign recently, you've noticed that I've released a video and I've released a song. All of this has been done within a day for each of the video and the song. These are complicated things that might take other people a while. This is quick for me. This is something I can do. I am creative. I'm on the spot. I will also, if there's something I don't know how to do, there's a million kids, 40 kids in this organization that can do it. We are with a group of student leaders, with PR, especially with my cabinet that I'll have next year. If I can't do something, I will look for somebody on my cabinet that can do it or can help me do it. So that's how I will handle these situations.
Is there any rebuttal from candidate? Alyssa. As stated previously, with PR, you have to work on, essentially campaigning, or not campaigning, but PRing your own initiatives, while also PRing the initiatives of the entire organization, the rest of the executive board. How do you plan on dealing with that, and how do you achieve transparency through that?
Like as Carmine was saying, I feel like PR isn't really a one-man show. That's why we have a PR committee. So I feel like this wouldn't be too much of a workload for one person, because it would easily be spread through the entire committee. In terms of how I'm advocating and spreading the initiatives on the Instagram, I feel that making a timed posting kind of log when I'm going to be posting, who I'm posting, to keep the students updated as efficiently and timely as possible, I feel like would help with the organization part of it. And yeah, that's it.
Does any candidate have a rebuttal? Okay. We will move into our last question, a question from the audience and those listening at home. What is the hardest challenge, and this one goes to Fred again. What is the hardest challenge you think you'll face during your time in the position, and how will you deal with that challenge?
I think the hardest challenge in terms of all public relations and when you're dealing with social media is how often should you be posting? Is posting too often gonna hurt you or anything like that? But honestly, my goal is to just make sure that everyone is aware of what we are doing. That is going to be the most important thing, to get our campus community involved with SGA, but also involved with other organizations. So again, just total transparency, just making sure posting is on a regular basis and everybody knows what's going on.
Does any candidate have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
We'll go to Carmine next. Carmine, your question is, what is the hardest challenge you think you'll face during your time in the position, and how will you deal with that challenge?
So for me, one thing I want to achieve as Vice President of Public Relations is having everybody on SGA repost posts from all organizations. And I think this is going to be a hard challenge for me, to keep track of what everybody's doing and when they're doing it. I want everybody to be, because 40 people, again, we're all running campaigns. The BSU post, a lot of people are going to see it. So keeping track of everybody in the organization, this is something that I'm going to use my position to hold everybody in SGA accountable to do this, so we can spread the word and more people can get involved in things. So that is going to be my hardest challenge.
Does any candidate have a rebuttal? Alyssa, what is the hardest challenge you think you'll face during your time in the position, and how will you deal with that challenge?
I wouldn't say this is probably my hardest challenge, but it's something that I definitely think that we need more of. Would probably be reacting and kind of acknowledging comments that are made on the posts that we put out to the student body, especially ones that are commenting about something maybe they don't like, something they don't agree with, and making sure we're reaching out to those students and kind of getting their feedback on things. And if they really feel they're very strongly about that, maybe even meeting with them to see why they're feeling that way. And I think that would be a great way for student government to be transparent with students and to really reach out and show them that we actually care how they feel and want to work on this with them.
Does any candidate have a rebuttal? All right, at this time, we will allow each of our candidates to do their 1-minute closing statements, and we will start out with Carmine.
So I would just like to say thank you again, everybody, for being here tonight. It's nice to see everybody and be together. I can't wait to get back to this in the future, hopefully soon. For my closing statement, I'm going to give you a few lines from my recent song that is just released. So, I know that I am the best choice. I'm really loud, you'll hear my voice. And I can't pretend, I can't ignore that there's a lot of problems that need to be explored. So vote for someone who will put his foot down to the floor. Like QU hockey, all I'm going to do is score. Hold up and just wait, because I have a little more. Vote for someone who will be there for you and more. Thank you, everybody.
Our next candidate to do their closing statement will be Corinna.
As our debate comes to a close, I want to emphasize that I am the only candidate who has experience working on the PR committee under the current and former successful vice presidents for public relations. Throughout a time where we saw much growth in our social media following and engagement throughout our campus community, I made unique contributions to this successful year. As someone who deeply cares for others, no matter their background, I am ready to make this year more about you than ever before. For inclusivity, for community, for opportunity. Remember to vote for Corinna Downs, Vice President for Public Relations on Tuesday. Remember, your vote, your voice, make the right choice.
Alyssa, you may now give your closing statement.
I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out tonight. But as I said before, I would put my all into this position and would tirelessly use this opportunity to put a lasting impact on this organization and the student body. Experienced, dedicated, and creative are the three characteristics that will assist me in a seamless transition into this position if elected. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out after this debate. I will always be here to listen. Thank you again and have a great night.
All right, again, these were our Vice President for Public Relations candidates. Thank you all very much, Corinna, Carmine, and Alyssa. You guys may take your seats. And now we will welcome to the stage our Vice President for Inclusion, Diversity, and Engagement candidates, Jeremy and Hannah. General duties for this position include serving as the chair of the Inclusion Committee. The committee may be divided into chairs and liaisons at the discretion of the chairperson. Serve as a member of the steering committee. Act as the liaison for student organizations and advocate for the co-curricular engagement of undergraduate students. Create a diversity action plan at the beginning of the year to be implemented throughout the academic year. And work with the Multicultural Student Leadership Council on a bi-weekly basis in order to enact change. So at this point, Jeremy, you may start with your opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Gustafson, and I'm running to be your first Vice President of Inclusion, Diversity, and Engagement. Over the past 3 years, I have served on SGA as a first-year class senator, and then served 2 years in my current role as a liberal arts senator and chair of the Specialized Representation Cabinet, while actively engaging in multiple multicultural organizations throughout campus. There is a great significance in the proper inclusion of different voices and identities on campus. It is the only way towards a more equitable student experience. I have a long-standing, demonstrated record in involvement in initiatives and organizations that work towards this crucial goal, which I hope will be reflected in my remarks tonight. Quinnipiac needs help. Students who are marginalized feel silenced, and the administration is not doing enough to ensure every student feels safe and protected on campus. The campus culture surrounding discrimination and intolerance has to change for the better. Quinnipiac is home to 17 active multicultural identity organizations who often feel they disproportionately shoulder the responsibility of running DEI programming on campus. In reality, that burden needs to be carried by the administration. No one deserves to be forgotten. No one deserves to disappear. Thank you.
At this time, Hannah, you may deliver your 2-minute opening statement.
Hello. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Hannah Hansen, and I'm running for VP for Inclusion, Diversity, and Engagement. Throughout this past year, inclusion and diversity are two very important issues that have been clearly lacking here at Quinnipiac. With the platforms like Bobcats for Justice Instagram, we are able to see what is really going on in our community and how it has impacted our fellow students. I, for one, would like to see this hate that our fellow students have undergone change and make sure that everyone feels welcome here on campus. To do so, I would like to work with administration and MSLC in order to build equity. This begins with making administration more accountable with statistics related to retention rates of students of color and faculty of color. Although working with different multicultural and identity groups, I want to hear from other students as well and make sure their voices are being heard. This is something I genuinely care about and want to make sure everyone's voices are being heard and make sure no one feels as if they're alone. I'm planning to work with Title IX office and on creating a women's center on campus that will increase advocacy for sexual assault. This is something that is very important to me and many other fellow students. I also intend on making sure that all student orgs get what they deserve, especially with the new COVID-19 regulations that have been put in place, making it harder for in-person events and no off-campus events. Ultimately, my goal is to increase school spirit, pride, and inclusion so that everyone is proud to call themselves a Bobcat again. Thank you.
Okay, for the first question, what have you done during your time in SGA that prepares you for this role? In other words, what are some of the initiatives that you've worked on during your time in SGA
that has advocated for minoritized groups on campus? Jeremy, you can start.
Thank you for the question, Kate. So, over the course of my 3 years on SGA, I've worked on several initiatives that touch on your question. First, I worked on a food insecurity task force last year to ensure that every student has an equitable accessibility to food on campus. Second, this year I'm working with Zara Murphy, one of the multicultural identity senators, on getting gender pronouns on Zoom to ensure faculty members do not misidentify any of their students and to make sure everyone feels included on campus. And third, I worked on the Indigeneity Initiative and worked with ISU, which I'm a proud board member of, to put an exhibit in the Arnold Bernard Library during Native American to showcase our students and to showcase their heritage.
No rebuttal.
Okay. Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
No problem. What have you done during your time in SGA that prepares you for this role? In other words, what are some things that you've worked on during your time on SGA that has advocated for minoritized groups on campus?
So really the only initiative that I've worked on was last year. I worked with ASL as the Quinnipiac tribe that we are named after. So I think it was really important to me to have that on campus, considering that's the tribe that we are named after. Unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it kind of got shut down and kind of put on hold, but as that we work on whether or not I get this position. But yeah, that is really the only initiative.
Jeremy, do you have a rebuttal?
Yes. So, as you said, even in light of COVID, you were not able to complete that initiative. However, for me, in the exhibit in the library, even in light of COVID, even in light of going to Code Orange, I worked with my friends in the ISU to put that exhibit on and to make sure that students on campus have the ability to learn more about indigenous populations on campus.
All right, the next question will start with you now.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion means something different to every single person. Could you please outline the difference between the three and speak on what they specifically mean to you and the advocacy work you have done and plan to do?
So diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that's definitely important to me. Over the past year, with all the lights of the George Floyd movement and the Black Lives Matter movement, it's definitely something that I've learned much more about. When it comes to equity and inclusion, I always imagine equity with the picture of the baseball field, and they kind of outline the difference between equality and equity. So I would definitely define that as making sure that everyone has the same opportunities, but making sure that they are able to see the same thing, and making sure that they have the same amount. When it comes to diversity, I think it's something that we all have to embrace, and being able to, being able to, rather than like ignore them or like hate on them, I think it's something that we have to embrace and say that we're different, that's okay, and yeah.
Jeremy, do you have a rebuttal?
Yes. I think it is important to recognize that hatred on campus and hatred in this whole country has been around for hundreds of years, ever since colonization started. And I think it is important for student leaders to recognize this and to realize that as a community, we have not done what we have set out to do. We have not have inclusive excellence. We have not. And we need to do better for the students here, not the students tomorrow, to ensure everybody is successful.
One of the duties of this position is to continually communicate with the Multicultural Student Leadership Council, MSLC for short. How will you work alongside MSLC to accomplish a comprehensive diversity action plan? Jeremy, you can start.
Thank you for that question.
Did you answer the last question?
I did not, no.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion means something different for every single person. Could you please outline the difference between the three and speak on what they specifically mean to you and the advocacy work you have done and plan to do?
Definitely. So diversity, let's begin with that one. Diversity means how every student identifies themselves, how every student has been raised, or how every student and everybody feels on campus, and how they are as a human being. Equity means that every student, no matter their socioeconomic backgrounds, has the ability to succeed. And that is extremely important on campus, to succeed academically and to succeed in any student organization they want to participate in. And then inclusion. Inclusion is something that as a society we have to build. We have to build inclusion. We have to make the society inclusive. We have to make it a better place for everyone and ensure that it is that everyone could be who they are on campus. And I have worked with my multicultural and gender senators on my cabinet.
Anna, do you have a rebuttal?
No.
Okay.
Okay. One of the duties of this position is to continually communicate with Multicultural Student Leadership Council. How will you work alongside MSLC to accomplish a comprehensive diversity action plan?
Great question. Thank you. I first want to thank MSLC and other multicultural organizations for publicly endorsing me today. That was very meaningful. And to go on to your question, I already have made connections over the past 3 years with multicultural leaders and other individuals on campus. And I'm willing to continue to meet with them after this election, no matter the outcome, and ensure their voices are being heard. And ways we will do this is by including all different sects of the university, including fraternity sorority life, to ensure that across the board, every organization, every fraternity or sorority has a diversity component where everybody feels welcomed and everybody feels like they have a place at Quinnipiac.
No.
The same to continually communicate with the Multicultural Student Leadership Council, MSLC. How will you work alongside MSLC to accomplish a comprehensive diversity action plan?
I definitely would like to meet more than bi-weekly to discuss this diversity action plan. It's something that is definitely important to me if I get this position, even if I don't get this position. It's something that I've read up about, and definitely met with MSLC and different other multicultural and identity orgs to discuss this and how they want their voices to be heard. And along with MSLC, I would like to meet with other students on campus that are marginalized to make sure that their voices are being heard, and then reiterate these concerns to MSLC and make sure that those are also being put into effect. And I just want to work with administration to make sure that these voices are properly being heard, to make sure that everyone is included on campus.
Jeremy, do you have a rebuttal?
No.
All right, this next question is from the audience, and Hannah, you will start. During the past summer, a few first-year students were caught making racist social media posts with seemingly little inaction from university administration. What is your stance when it comes to educational reform and intolerance regarding issues of racial bias on campus, and how will you advocate your opinion to administration?
This is something that I personally am very upset that there was no action being done by administration. I think that there should have been, and this is something that I would definitely want to speak to administration about and kind of question why they didn't. And when it comes to diversity training, I think that at least all orgs and like e-boards, student orgs and e-boards should have a diversity training, but although I think most students should also go through diversity training, I think it's something important that we all should learn from. So yeah, that's really it.
Jeremy, do you have a rebuttal?
Yes. I think it's great to have training for students and organizations, but I think we also need to have training for staff and faculty members. Because I've heard multiple complaints about faculty members acting in very improper ways, surrounding race, sexism, transphobia, homophobia, and all other stuff. Therefore, we have to make it across the board and have everybody involved, because we're all Bobcat Nation.
Jeremy, the same question to you. During the past summer, a few first-year students were caught making racist social media posts with seeming little inaction from the university administration. What is your stance when it comes to educational reform and intolerance regarding issues of racial bias when it comes to the university, and how will you advocate your opinion to administration?
Well, clearly administration cares more about the endowment and tuition than actual students and how they feel on campus. That's blatantly first. Second, I will be meeting with multicultural orgs, no matter what happens on Tuesday, and identity orgs to see ways we can force administration, hold them accountable for this. Because it's unacceptable. Because these people are living in our dorms. These people are eating in our caf. And yet, where's the support for marginalized groups on campus? There isn't any. Because the university cares more about money than how their students feel. And they do not care whether or not students transfer out of the school or whatever. They just care more about the pocketbook than how people are feeling on campus. And that is unacceptable, and I will fight administration on that.
Hannah, do you have a rebuttal?
No.
So we will start out with Hannah. You are able to make your 1-minute closing statement.
First of all, I would like to say thank you to all who came to this event and made sure that you are making an informed decision for voting in Tuesday's election. Inclusion, diversity, and engagement are things that I'm very passionate about, and it truly breaks my heart every time I see that there are people who are victims of these hate crimes on campus and both in this country. To break this pattern that we are in, I want to create a safe space for students to come and discuss what happened to them, and know that it will never happen again because something will be done about it. I'm extremely dedicated to making sure that everyone feels welcome and comfortable on this campus. This past year has brought a lot of uncertainties, but if there's one thing that you can be certain about is that I will get the job done. Thank you.
Jeremy, you may start your 1-minute closing statement now.
I'd like to thank both my fellow candidate and the audience for taking time to attend this debate tonight. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share my platform. Everything I have said tonight comes down to this. Quinnipiac is broken. Bobcat Nation is failing many students' populations that feel our community does not value them. This year I have spent time reflecting on conversations with friends and realized that so many of them are deeply unhappy with their student experience. They shared a common sentiment, feeling overburdened and ostracized by administrators and fellow students because of their identities. Although I may not have the first-hand experience that many of my peers do, I feel that based on my past endeavors, I am qualified to complete some of the necessary work on campus. I believe that my peers echo the sentiment after seeing endorsements of my campaign by MSLC, BSU, ISU, among others. Thank you for your time. I will see you on April 13th.
Thank you both. This was our Vice President for Inclusion, Diversity, and Engagement, Jeremy Gustafson and Hannah Hansen. And we will have you guys exit the stage now, and we will welcome our candidates for Vice President, who are Bobby Denise, Christopher Longchamp, and Hannah Stevens. Some of the Vice President's duties are to assume all responsibilities as President in the event of the absence of the President, serve as the Chair of the Student Advocacy Committee. They will assign duties to members based on issues raised, serve as a member of the Steering Committee, respond to and publicly record all student concerns and their outcomes in a timely manner, and act as parliamentarian and be familiar with the latest edition of Robert's Rules of Order. So we will start off with Bobby. You are able to begin your 2-minute statement whenever you're ready.
Hi, my name is Bobby Dennis, and I am running to be Vice President of the Student Government Association. I'm an OT major where I have learned skills of advocacy and empathetic listening, and a global public health minor where I have developed a value of community-based interventions. I will apply this to SGA in the fact that I think it is very important that students' concerns are the first things that we are working on. I also have research skills and know how to ask questions to receive unbiased results and evaluate the data. I also think that we need to have more data on our student surveys, and we can do this through creating QR codes and tabling and working with student organizations to ensure that we have higher response rates to create a larger sample size. I have worked on over 10 initiatives on my time on SGA, such as the SGA text-to-chat line, as well as creating mental health resource posters and working on a spring involvement fair alternative where we created a Google Slides presentation where student orgs could contribute slides with information on how to join. These initiatives that I have worked on have provided me with connections with administration and faculty. I have also served on the Student Advocacy Committee for 2 years and have been an active member in planning State of the Union. From the start, I have worked on initiatives due to direct input from students, such as the pavers in South Lot. When running my first year for health, wellness, and accessibility, a student came up to me with a concern about these pavers and that it was an accessibility issue, and that was the first thing that I worked on. I truly will advocate for you, and that is my priority. So please feel free to reach out to me with any concerns that you have, and those will be the first things that I work on. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the moderators of this debate for taking their time out of their weekend to be here, and for Q30 Television, everyone behind the scenes for live streaming this event on their website and app. My name is Chris Longchamp, and I'm running for the Vice President of the Student Government Association. My platform consists of 3 main focus points that I think Quinnipiac students want to see changed. First focus point is that I would work on, if elected, is transparency. I would work with administration to provide as much information as possible as students regarding different issues on campus. I would build off of the work that I did this year on the Transparency for University Finances initiative, as Cam stated earlier, to continue to advocate for giving students more information about the institution they attend. The second focus point is school spirit.
While there may be 2,000 fans at a men's ice hockey game, there's only 100 to 200 fans at a women's soccer or lacrosse game. I would like to change that and work with different spirit-based groups on campus to increase the attendance at fall and spring sports games. Some of the organizations that I would partner with would be the Quinnipiac University Pep Band, which I am a current e-board member of, and QU Spirit, to have live music at these games and to have more free giveaways at these fall and spring sports games. Thus, this would incentivize students to go to these games. The third focus point of my platform is one that focuses on adding a diversity, equity, and inclusion-based cabinet to the Student Government Association. This was an idea that SGA has heard about before and has done a straw poll on in the past. With the addition of the Vice President for Inclusion, Diversity, and Engagement, working on more administrative to student relations, the DEI cabinet would work with more student-to-student interactions. Some of these initiatives could focus on increasing awareness to the student body about multicultural organizations, events on campus, and other topics within diversity, equity, and inclusion. The way that the cabinet would be put together would be by spreading some of the responsibilities of the current multicultural and identity senators into a specific multicultural senator, a specific identity center, and other positions like that, while still being under the direction of the chair of the Specialized Representation Cabinet.
Hannah, you may start your 2-minute opening statement whenever you're ready.
My name is Hannah Stevens, and I am running for Vice President of Sga. To begin, I could not be more excited to be standing here tonight to express my desire to earn your vote to serve as your next Vice President. Over the last 2 years, I have worked on a wide range of initiatives, focusing on the mental and physical health of students, minor annoyances, and promoting academic excellence at QU. These include bringing therapy dogs onto campus, installing foot pedals on bathroom doors, bringing back trash cans to the upper level dining hall, implementing a president's list at QU, as well as several others. If I have the privilege and opportunity to continue to serve on SGA, I hope to be able to address several more pressing issues on campus and utilize the connections I have already built with administration as a foundation of continuing to improve their student administration ties. I will ensure administration not only listens, but does the work to enact change that will serve to promote the greater good of Quinnipiac in an unbiased manner. I want to be your voice in the room, a strong, assertive, and passionate representative. I'm here to not only listen, but to uncover the wants and needs of the student body. I don't expect all of you to come to SGA with issues, ideas, or questions. I expect myself and the Student Advocacy Committee to physically go out into the community and gain feedback from every single Quinnipiac student on a regular basis. As our community enters the post-COVID era, a lot of work will be required to achieve a new normalcy, one with the return of events and activities, one where school spirit is at an all-time high, there's transparency and accountability of all, and campus culture is an inclusive environment where all student voices are uplifted. I hope you will strongly consider voting for me as your next Vice President, as I am well suited to work towards resolution, take action, and lead important initiatives for the long-term good of the Quinnipiac experience.
The first question, this will be for you, Hannah. What do you think is the biggest issue facing QU students, and how will you
We've seen that there are a lot of issues on the Quinnipiac campus within our culture of not addressing and not doing taking the right actions to support underrepresented students. I think my plan is to really make it a focus to actually go out into the community and make sure we're hearing from these underrepresented students and just all students in general. It's really important, that we're hearing from everyone and not only listening, but actually taking actions to enact change and move our campus forward to a more inclusive environment.
You can go to Chris. You want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please, Kay.
No problem. What do you think is the biggest issue facing QU students, and how you use your position to address it?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Kay. I think the most important issue right now on this campus is transparency. Administration, frankly, has not been clear enough with the students about what they've been releasing as far as statements and other things regarding that. I have previous experience, unlike these other two candidates, working on an initiative based on transparency. It may have been with university finances, but that can apply to other issues as well regarding multiple different topics such as DEI, school spirit, anything along those lines. I have great relationships with the administration, which I can leverage on and use to help this issue as well, and that's it for me.
Do either of you have a rebuttal?
Yes. So I would also have to agree that transparency is a huge issue. And while I might not have a specific initiative that I've worked towards with administration on achieving more transparency, I think transparency in SGA is also a really big challenge that we need to take on and face and take actions to improve. And with that, I think that goes with, posting more and making the information more readily available about the work that SGA does.
Bobby, did you have one?
I would also just like to argue that I think that in addition to transparency, accessibility of information is really important. A lot of information is in the public record, but students just don't know where it is or how to access it because it's not posted or it's not written in a way that is easy for students to understand or students to find. So I think that in addition is an important thing to work on.
The same question
For you. What do you think is the biggest issue facing QU students and how you use your position to address it?
I think that the biggest issue is that a lot of students feel that their voice is not being heard. So regardless of background, a lot of students don't think that administration cares about what they want to be worked on, and I think it's our job as SGA to uplift the voices of all students and ensure that they know that SGA cares about what they want and cares about what would make their experience at Quinnipiac better. I think it's most important that we are uplifting the voices of others and that we are advocating for their needs and not for our own.
Do either of you have a rebuttal? Next question will go to Chris. One of the issues that we have seen over the course of the past
Year within our campus community as a whole is a decline in campus involvement and subsequently an interest for student government as well. What will you do over the course of the next year to ensure retention within the organization remains high, but also that new individuals are excited to run for SGA next spring?
Thank you for the question, Kay. This has been a big issue in the past with SGA. I know last year specifically it has been a really bad retention rate issue. I've heard as many as 9 candidates dropped their positions within 1 week, so that's obviously a big problem here on campus. And I think I would address this by making sure there's more bonding activities for SGA to also bond with themselves, but also with the campus community. I don't think right now that SGA is the most accessible people on campus. Yes, we're all very busy and we have other responsibilities besides SGA, but I think we could be more accessible as senators, as e-board members, and as chairs of cabinets. I think even with our bonding events this year that have taken place within just SGA, not a high turnout for a lot of students, and I think promoting different organizations through our social media platform will encourage students to engage more and be more involved on campus.
Do you want me to repeat it? One of the issues that we've seen over the course of the past year within our campus community as a whole is a decline in campus involvement and subsequently an interest for student government as a whole. What will you do over the course of the next year to ensure retention within the organization remains high, but also that new individuals are excited to run for SGA next spring?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I think there's 2 points that I want to make here. One is that I'd really like to work closely with the PR committee and the VP of PR to do more on our social media to interact with the student body and, take people from SGA, interview them, ask them questions why they got involved, the work they've done, just so students can hear personal experiences, and maybe that might touch like someone else and they might want to get involved. And then another thing is I think the system we have in place for filling the vacancy in student government needs some reforming. Right now, we have a special election every time a seat opens, and that can be incredibly frustrating for SGA members to sit through these long special elections. So I think, you know, we need to take more time to just do like 1 or 2 specialized elections throughout the semester.
Chris?
Yeah, while I may agree with Hannah that we do need more engagement with the campus population, I would just like to make a clear difference that the vice president deals with initiatives and PR deals with PR. I do think there is a time and place for partnership, especially when promoting initiatives to the student body. But I also want to make sure that PR focuses on PR and the vice president focuses on the initiatives and getting proposals to administrators.
I also think that with our new policies and with the amendments that have been made to the special election process, that this will be a smoother transition this year, and that it will be more effective with the reduced number of special elections.
All right, we will move into our next question. Over the course of the past few years, it has become a concern that students of underrepresented backgrounds have shown less interest in running for SGA due to the fact that they do not feel comfortable within the organization. Some students have shared that when they are bringing concerns to administration in respect to initiatives surrounding multiculturalism, they are not being heard. What are your thoughts on this, and how can you combat this in the future? And we'll start with you, Bobby.
Should I answer the last question first? I didn't answer the last question, sorry. That's okay. You're good.
One of the issues that we have seen over the course of the past year within our campus community as a whole is the decline in campus involvement and subsequently an interest for student government as well. What will you do over the course of the next year to ensure retention within the organization remains high and also that new individuals are excited to run for SGA next spring?
I do agree that bonding events are great for SGA members to become closer with one another. I also do think that having support within SGA with the mentor and mentee program that was started this year, or in the past year, I think is very effective. And I do want to be a support as the VP. I would be the head of the Student Advocacy Committee, so therefore I would be going through people's initiatives, and I think it's really important, and I think I've seen great leadership in the past 2 years with Caroline and Sophia being a support to students. I think it's really important to help students with their proposals and help them to ensure that they're successful in meetings with administration, because the more success that they're having, the more likely that they're going to want to remain in the organization.
Either of you have a rebuttal? Okay.
Yes, I do agree that that did hit the point of the question. I would also like to add in another point. I think having SGA members go to a second mandatory multicultural event would help with the having multicultural students feel more comfortable with SGA members, because they would see them at their normal events that they go to with their involvement in campus, and I think that would be a much easier relationship to them for them to go talk to an SGA member if they have a personal relationship with them outside of SGA.
Concern that students of underrepresented backgrounds have shown less interest in running for SGA due to the fact that they do not feel comfortable within the organization. Some students also have shared that when they are bringing concerns to administration in respect to initiatives surrounding multiculturalism, they are not being heard. What are your thoughts on this, and how can you combat this in the future?
Yes, so as I mentioned in my earlier statement, one of my platform points is to introduce a diversity, equity, and inclusion cabinet within SGA. I think it can be under a subcommittee of the specialized representation cabinet, and splitting up the roles of multicultural. Right now, there's a multicultural senator and a gender and identity senator. I would like to split up gender and identity senator to have more people come and participate within SGA that are from different backgrounds and have different experiences here at the university. And I also would not mind adding other multicultural, more multicultural seats to SGA, because that would only help multicultural students feel more comfortable if there's more of them on the board and under the specialized representation cabinet.
So I think this is a great idea to add more positions on student government to get people from different backgrounds on SGA. But I think to really address the question is that the culture in SGA also needs to change to become more accepting of these people and to make sure that their voices are really being uplifted and that we're fighting for them. So I think the culture within SGA is the most important thing.
I do think that the key issue is that if students do not feel comfortable within SGA, then they're not going to be running for seats, and we already have a large number of open seats or a large number of students that end up dropping. So I think it's really important to first work on creating a better and more inclusive culture within SGA, and then speaking with students and seeing if those positions are things that we would have students that want to run for them.
Does anybody have a rebuttal? All right. Bobby, you want to ask the question?
Okay. Can you ask it one more time?
What?
Could you ask the question again?
Yes.
Thank you.
Over the course of the past few years, it has become a concern that students of underrepresented backgrounds have shown less interest in running for SGA due to the fact that they do not feel comfortable within the organization. Some students also have shared that when they are bringing concerns to administration in respect to initiatives surrounding multiculturalism, they are not being heard. What are your thoughts on this, and how can you combat this in the future?
I think that it's very important that we improve the culture within SGA, and I think that the diversity training that we have in our regular fall and spring training is one step in that direction and improving that training. I also think it's really important that if students are approaching administration and are not being heard, that we use our executive board positions to help uplift their voices. It's been shown many times that when an administrator receives a call from an executive board office, they're much quicker to respond than to an email from any student. So I think it's important that we use that position to uplift all student voices and to uplift the other senators' voices as well.
Hannah, we'll go to you. Over the course of the past few years, it has become a concern that students of underrepresented backgrounds have shown less interest in running for SGA due to the fact that they do not feel comfortable within the organization. Some students also have shared that when they are bringing concerns to administration in respect to initiatives surrounding multiculturalism, they are not being heard. What are your thoughts on this, and how can you combat this in the future?
Yeah, so kind of like what I said before, I think the culture that we have in SGA plays a huge role in this, and holding ourselves accountable that we have in an inclusive environment. Even just having conversations in the suite, I think we can do more to bring more people into the suite and just make sure we're listening to people. And when administration isn't listening, I think the position at the VP of IDE is a huge step in the right direction to ensuring that administration is listening to those of the voices of underrepresented communities. So student government culture and making sure eBoard takes the right steps to make sure administration is listening.
All right. We will move into our final question for all of you, a question from the audience here. And the question is, what will you do on your first day as vice president? Hannah, you'll start.
So I think the first thing I want to do is work with the entire eBoard to make a strategic plan and how we will become more transparent ourselves so that we are making sure we're holding ourselves accountable and listening to student voices and being completely transparent with them. And then taking that to the next level and working and how we will create transparency within administration. I think transparency is a huge thing that most candidates run on. So I think developing a very strategic plan to obtain these goals is very important and something that I will do right when I would step into office if I were elected.
Chris, we will go to you. What will you do on your first day as vice president?
Wow, first day as vice president. I think I would, first thing I would do is just take a deep breath, take it all in, because it's a big position and I'm gonna have a lot of responsibility to do. Second thing I would do is call the administrators, establish that professional relationship with them early on so that they know where I stand on different issues and what I'm going to take and what they can expect from me in every single meeting that I have with them. Third, I would reach out to the other e-board members and congratulate them as well, but then get it right to work. We need a plan here, because if we don't have a plan, then we're just going to run around doing 500 different things, and it's not going to be a unified effort to get SGA moving forward and getting student voices advocated for. And then thirdly, I would reach out to the rest of the SGA and say congratulations, and get to work, because I'm going to be on your butt every single second of the day wondering what you're going to be working on, because we cannot have these minimal updates of, oh, I sent an email.
Does either candidate have a rebuttal? Bobby, we will go to you. What will you do on your first day as vice president if elected?
I think the thing I would do on the first day is work with the other e-board to create a cohesive group. I think it's really important that we are all able to work together, and I think we have a lot of great candidates for all the positions, and I would want to create a plan to work with them. I've also collected many initiative ideas and suggestions from the student body while campaigning, and I think all the students that have shared those with me, and I would make sure that that list is the list of things that are the first to get done if I were to be elected. Thank you.
Does either candidate have a rebuttal? Chris?
The one other thing that I would do, I have not heard this from either of the other candidates, but I would
Objection. You can't. You have to directly address the point and about a rebuttal.
Sorry. Going off of Bobby's initial address, I would also reach out to multicultural organizations and make sure I have a great connection with them, because their voices are not being heard right now, and they need another person on SGA besides the Vice President of Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity that will fight for them and make sure that they know that they are heard.
All right. At this time, we will start with our closing statements. Oh, Hannah, you didn't have a rebuttal, right? No. Okay. We'll start with our 1-minute closing statements, and we will start off with Hannah.
Our nation is going through an important and critical time addressing much needed diversity, inclusion, and equity inequalities, and the Quinnipiac community needs to be an active participant now more than ever and lead in these areas today and into the future. I will work hard to return the student life back to normal, one where we stand together, proud to be a Bobcat, and enjoy everything Quinnipiac has to offer. I have the leadership, the passion, energy, and determination to be the force behind your voice, and will accomplish this by listening, learning, and taking meaningful action. This is our experience, our time at Quinnipiac, our chance of building lifelong friendships and memories. Join me in making it the best possible experience it can be. My name is Hannah Stevens, and I hope I earned your vote tonight.
We'll next go to Chris. Chris, you are able to start your 1-minute closing statement.
My campaign slogan has been diligent, dedicated, and determined. And I think these are the 3 best adjectives that best define what the Vice President of the Student Government Association should be. The Vice President needs to be diligent because they can never overlook even the simplest of tasks, whether it's meeting with an administrator or going over a proposal. Everything needs to be correct. I am very diligent with my work on SGA this year, with taking on more responsibility with being the secretary in my first year with the organization, and with my schoolwork of holding a GPA of nearly 4.0. The Vice President needs to be dedicated to both the Student Government Association and the student body. I've been very dedicated to the student body by being involved with many different organizations outside of SGA, and I've been dedicated by putting 10 hours a week into the organization. The Vice President also needs to be determined to stick up for the student body and to never give up when administration pushes back. I'll be that person to stand up for student needs and leverage the relationships I have currently. Diligent, dedicated, and determined are the 3 best adjectives to describe Chris Longchamp. So vote Chris Longchamp for SGA Vice President on a Tuesday.
Bobby, at this time, you may complete your 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you all for joining tonight and for hearing what all of the candidates have to say. I am a resilient leader, and I am passionate about this organization. I will continue to work to fight for what students want and I would love to hear more of your input. And if elected, I will go out and seek that input to ensure that SGA is advocating for what all Bobcats want. So thank you very much, and I hope that you vote for me on Tuesday.
Thank you very much to our vice presidential candidates. Again, this was Bobby Dennis, Christopher Longchamp, and Hannah Stevens. We will now ask you to exit the podiums, and we will start out with our last debate of the night, our presidential race between Nicholas Champanelli and Caroline Mello. Some of the presidential duties include presiding over the Student Government Association Senate at regularly scheduled general board meetings and serve as a non-voting member, serve as the chair of the steering committee, serve as the chair of the executive board, create working groups of student leaders, including SGA members if necessary, to advise the president on key issues and meet with university administrators as necessary, and oversee the chair of each standing committee of the Student Government Association. At this time, we will start out with our opening remarks. Nick, you will be first to start, and you are able to start with your 2-minute opening statement.
Thank you, Sophia. Good evening, Bobcats. Thank you to everyone here that's joining us tonight, along with those tuning in from home. This past year was unlike any other. From containing the spread of COVID-19 to addressing instances of bias, both nationwide and on our campus, along with countless other challenges that we continue to face every day. Throughout this past week, I've had the opportunity to speak with fellow Bobcats about the issues students really want SGA to advocate for. While there's still progress to be made on improving dining, responding to COVID, and concerns about our abundance of meal plan, students are demanding we take a hard stance on improving inclusion on campus, bolstering school spirit and pride, and responding to countless other pressing issues. From listening to your concerns and ideas, I've centered my platform to reflect the demands and how you want administration to improve your student experience. We have a long way to go, and taking direct action by rewriting the legend of the Bobcat, creating more traditions and spirit, especially on York Hill with the new On the Rocks pub, and proactively working with MSLC organizations to push administration to make actual progress on initiatives for QU to be more inclusive and equitable. These ideas barely scratch the surface on how we can improve our campus culture and make a difference in our student experience. We need a stronger SGA that will hold administration accountable and make changes not for their image, but for the student body that is already here. This is why I'm running for SGA president.
Hello, everyone. As you know, my name is Caroline Mello, and I am running to be your student body president. I'm truly honored to be running for president because I know I have the passion and the experience to enact real change on campus. You are not only electing me to a position on SGA, you are hiring me for a job that is responsible for understanding the many issues Quinnipiac is facing and fighting for the students' needs above all. I'm campaigning on 4 pillars. First, reform student conduct. We need to build a system that is both transparent and open to student input, upholding the values of the student body. Second, build a more inclusive SGA. Minority groups on campus have had to advocate for themselves for too long because SGA simply isn't advocating for them. By restructuring and refocusing SGA on uplifting minority voices and creating more diversity of opinion within the org will allow SGA to truly advocate for every student at Quinnipiac. Third, I will work to bring back the normal Quinnipiac experience in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. The most important part of getting our community back to normal is getting our community vaccinated. I will push for an on-campus vaccination site, giving students free and easy access to a vaccine. Campus, fighting for the students' needs and standing up against the administration. I promise to work every single day and give everything I have back to you, the Quinnipiac University student body. Thank you all attending for tonight, and I look forward to sharing more about my plan with you.
All right, we will move into our first question for the presidential candidates. Caroline, we'll start with you. Caroline, over the course of the past year, you made a comment promises when running for SGA Vice President that you either were not able to complete or that you did not pursue for some reason. Could you please discuss the reason you are unable to complete some initiatives and how you will ensure, if elected to this position, that you are able to successfully keep your promises?
Absolutely, and thank you for the question. So when running, I think we all kind of put forward the plan that we would like to see happen. And we try for every single one of those aspects. When working with administration, we have to understand that some things will happen, some things will not happen, and we have to choose the path that will benefit most students. Throughout my time on SGA, I've tried to focus on the issues that are most pertinent to the current student body that we have. When running, I did not know some of the issues, such as a parking fee, that would arise during my tenure. And so I had to switch my plan to focus on the issues that the students needed to enact change. And so, yes, not everything was completed, but the things that needed to happen did happen. As for my plan for next year, I've specifically created a plan that that is already beginning to happen, and so I can ensure that everything in my plan does occur. Thank you.
Nick, do you have a rebuttal at this time?
No rebuttal.
Nick, same question to you. Over the course of the past year, you made promises when running for SGA Vice President for Student Experience that you were either not able to complete or that you did not pursue for some reason. Could you please discuss the reason that you were unable to complete some initiatives and how you will ensure, if elected to this position, that you are able to successfully keep your promises?
Thank you for the question. So I fully acknowledge that I was not necessarily able to deliver on everything I ran on initially for VP for Student Experience. And that's important to consider. That's important to consider when running for this position and moving into the next year. To know where you fell short, to take a step back, understand why. And for me, a lot of it is due to other issues popping up. As Caroline was mentioning, there was the parking fee that was implemented, and I spent countless hours developing the parking fee survey, which helped get it delayed by a semester. And also just working with my committee, making sure that we are doing work that we actually really care about. Because when you focus on something that you as a team really are very impassioned about, you're more efficient, you get things done faster, and you have a personal stake in the game. And so for that reason, I wasn't necessarily able to get everything done, but it's worth considering and moving that forward into steering.
Caroline, do you have a rebuttal at this time?
No.
All right, Nick, this will be a question for you first. As SGA president, you're constantly meeting with administration and building relationships in order to enact change on behalf of the student body. How do you balance successful administrative relationships while at the same time fiercely advocating for students, especially in light of recent resolutions passed by SGA and their respective administrative responses?
Yeah, thank you, Kay. So this past year, I have certainly been in front of administration already trying to push for those changes. I meet rather frequently with the new CXO, Tom Ellett, in order to push and advocate for things that students really want to see changed and what he can do at that very high administrative level. And when he first came in, we established a very candid dialogue. And that's something I hope to expand to other administrators if elected. And being able to have that professional but also personal relationship is incredibly important to balance, but you also need to not be afraid to sacrifice that a little bit, because this is what students demand, this is what students want. And especially when you pull up the data and show that this is what they need, this is what they're telling you to do, and you're not doing that, you need to be able to go in front of them and say that they need to do better. They need to respond to student needs, the students who come here and pay that $70,000 tuition.
Do you have a rebuttal, Caroline?
No.
Okay. Same question, I'll repeat. As SGA president, you're constantly meeting with administration and building relationships in order to enact change on behalf of the student body. How do you balance successful administrative relationships while at the same time fiercely advocating for the students, especially in light of recent resolutions passed by SGA and their respective administrative responses?
Thank you. So, as Nick was saying about being candid with the administration, while I do think that is important, I think it's more important that we establish a strong voice for SGA. At the beginning of this year, SGA's voice and the students' voice was pretty much lost on campus. The administration didn't take into account our opinions or didn't even come to us for our opinions. When going into meetings with administration, we need to come off as strong and decisive when making a decision for the student body, and so that must mean we need to know the opinion of the student body. So that goes back to reaching out to the student body and reaching out to each group on campus to make sure we know their opinion so we can accurately depict it to the administration. So while I do think it is important to have those good relationships, which I have built through my role as vice president, I think it's more important to stand up against the administration and stand for the students, because at the end of the day, we're elected by the students and not the administration.
Nick, do you have a rebuttal?
No.
Okay. Next question, starting off with Caroline. How will you ensure your executive board is representing all students on this campus and making everyone feel welcome, as your executive board will be all white with seemingly little diversity?
Thank you, Kay. That's an incredibly important point. I think we cannot ignore the fact that our executive board will be all white. We need to reach out to the groups on campus to understand what they're going through. Myself, as a white female, does not understand what every single student on this campus is going through, and the only way I will figure that out is by talking to them. So that means going to all of the multicultural groups on campus, going to any other underrepresented group on campus, and then going to the students who may not be in a group or involved on campus, seeing what they need too. We need to shift the perspective in SGA to be less, I'm going to do this initiative to benefit the students that I know, to I'm going to advocate for every student, and I'm going to go and see how I can represent them best.
No rebuttal.
Okay. Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
How will you ensure your executive board is representing all students on this campus and making everyone feel welcome, as your executive board will be all white with seemingly little diversity?
Thank you, Kay. So you bring up a great point. We will have an all-white executive board and possibly an all-male executive board. From an external perspective, that's inherently a problem. I don't think anyone can deny that, especially when we're advocating for diversity, equity, and inclusion and large-scale initiatives for the university to undertake and have quick turnaround times to make an actual difference. And so in my experience being on the executive board of the Turkish Student Association, having worked in Title IX and promoting sexual assault awareness and bringing light to these types of issues, you need to understand how to be able to take a step back, give other people the platform that they need to bring light to these issues, have that voice, and but transfer some level of our privilege to help make those changes happen. And so that is just one way that we should do that.
Caroline, do you have a rebuttal?
Yes. So while I do think it's incredibly important to take a step back and let the other groups who may experience more of the issues than we do at the moment, I think that it's also important that we go and speak to them and advocate for them. For too long, we have been saying to different groups, okay, well, you have this issue, go advocate for that. We need to be the ones advocating for them.
All right, we will move into our final question of the night for both of you. What do you feel is the hardest challenge that you will face in office as SGA president, and how do you plan to combat that if elected? Caroline, we'll start with you.
I believe the hardest challenge I will face as president is creating a Quinnipiac community that is accepting and is loved by everyone at Quinnipiac. Currently, that is not the case, and there are many reasons for that. We don't feel that the administration is being transparent with us. Students don't feel that they're being properly advocated for. Students just don't feel like they belong on campus, and we need to change that, whether it's increasing school spirit or changing the conduct system so we know that action is being taken when we see instances of bias, or building a more inclusive SGA. All of these will go towards creating a Quinnipiac that is a home for every single student at Quinnipiac.
Nick, do you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Nick, same question to you. What is the hardest challenge that you anticipate dealing with as SGA president, and how will you deal with it if elected?
Thank you. So, kind of referring back to the other question, it will certainly be that SGA is typically a predominantly white organization. and also having our body also advocate for DEI-related initiatives. Usually we just defer them to the multicultural and identity senators, the international senators, and it shouldn't be that way. DEI does not fall on the shoulders of one. It falls on the shoulders of everyone in order to elevate our campus, elevate our inclusivity, and make a real change here. And this past week, getting to talk to students and hearing about their experiences is heartbreaking when things get pushed to the side and we need to take a much stronger stance. Sadly, administration doesn't really care. And having that strong stance, having that strong voice as SGA, working with other MSLC groups, creating an advisory group to promote DEI that advises the president and other members of SGA is incredibly important moving forward.
Caroline, do you have a rebuttal?
No.
All right. At this time, we will finish off with our 1-minute closing statements. Caroline, you will be the first.
I'd like to close tonight by saying that the role of SGA president, above all, needs someone who is passionate, not only about SGA, but about the belief that Quinnipiac can be better. This school is not perfect, but it is our home. We must all work to make it feel like home for every Bobcat. President will not be an easy job. It most certainly will require late nights in the office and lots of frustrating meetings. But I know I have the passion and the fire to take on whatever it throws at me. The student body deserves someone who will always show up, who will always have the unwavering voice of the students and will undoubtedly put SGA first. I can truly say that I love Quinnipiac, and I will give every free moment I have back to you, the student body. Thank you all for coming tonight, both in person and online. I'm immensely proud to be a Bobcat, and I'm so excited to be your candidate for SGA president. Polls open at 8 a.m. Tuesday, and make sure you stand up for change and vote Caroline Mello for SGA president.
Nick, at this time, you may deliver your 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you. Throughout my time on SGA, I've prioritized representing the student body over more than anything, even classes, tanking an exam for this organization and the students that are here, the students we care about and that we try to actively serve. Well, and I've done this by actively developing surveys to fight and push against university decisions that they make without student input and trying to increase and optimize our experience here. Or facilitating greater discussions on social justice, most recently with the family of George Floyd and also at Askaway, which we host every semester. I've worked tirelessly to improve the student experience here, but the work in these areas is nowhere near complete. SGA needs to hold administration's feet to the fire by proactively advocating for the changes we so desperately need at this institution. We need to push for a campus that all students are proud to call their home, where all students are proud to call themselves a Quinnipiac Bobcat. With that, your vote is your voice in making a difference at QU. My name is Nick Champanelli, and I'm running for SGA.
So before we end off, we actually got one more question from the audience that I think is incredibly important that you both answer. So we're not going to do any rebuttals, but we're going to have you both answer in 1 minute. And we're going to start off with Nick. The question is, what would you do in a situation in which students feel incredibly passionate about an issue, however, through continual meetings with administration, you know that the issue will not be changed? How would you respond?
That's a great question. And something that I've really seen, I've experienced this in my role as VP for Student Experience. If you bring a handful or a laundry list even of experiences that students have had, administration doesn't care. And so being able to communicate what students want changed, they need data. They're a business at the end of the day and care about their bottom line. And being able to crunch those numbers, quantify student experiences, which sadly we have to do to make change here, because one story isn't enough. One instance of discrimination, they don't care about making a difference. And being able to push for that and show that these things happen and need to be actively addressed is more important than ever.
Caroline, same question to you. What would you do in a situation in which students feel incredibly passionate about an issue, however, through continual meetings with administration, you know that the issue will not be changed? How would you respond?
So this is an issue that happens all too often and something I've seen repeatedly in my role as vice president who oversees all the initiatives in the organization. Something I've implemented this year, which has helped to alleviate this, is I have my members create in-depth proposals before going to the administrator. This means that the member is thinking through the problem, the solution, any costs associated, any drawbacks, and how we're going to implement it on campus. By promoting our members and giving them the resources to create the plan and coming up with the drawbacks prior to even meeting with the administration, then when going into that meeting, we've ultimately eliminated any reason for them to say no. And so by creating this plan and supporting our members to build these proposals and get the research and do the cost analysis, we are allowing our members to better advocate for themselves and be more productive when in these meetings.
All right, thank you both very much. These were your presidential candidates, Nick Ciampanelli and Caroline Mello. Thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you.
I'm tripping over things. All right, first thing, give everyone a round of applause for sitting through this, being at home, the candidates, technical difficulties, just everything. And that's going to wrap up the SGA debates for tonight. I'm really hoping that you guys listen to the candidates and everything they had to say, so when you vote on Tuesday, you have a really informed decision. Now here's Sophia.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. We really, really appreciate the amount of engaged students that we have in this space right now. I don't want any of you to ever lose that, because it's really, really important that we continue with this advocacy work, regardless of whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior. So thank you guys for coming tonight, for listening to all the candidates. As Kay said, we hope that you're going to make informed decisions and go back to your roommates and your friends and tell them about, what you've heard tonight and who you're deciding to vote for. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't give a huge thank you to Lily, who literally stood here for who literally stood here with her arm stuck out for the past 2 hours for these candidates. So thank you very much to Lily and to the election committee for hosting this, and to Q30 for helping with us. We really appreciate it. You guys are the best, and we appreciate your work a lot. Let's give them a round of applause. I hope you guys feel very confident in leaving, if you're a senior, leaving the university in hand with these candidates, because I for sure do. Thank you guys all, to the candidates, for coming out and being passionate and being educated, and for assisting us and advocating continually for the university. That's all for me. Thank you. Vote on Tuesday. Polls open 8 a.m., close at 8 p.m. DUQ, gonna send it in an email. It's really important for you guys to vote. These are the people that are gonna be advocating you for the entire year. It's a really big deal. Administration is going to be reaching out to them continually, so please, please, please vote. Tell your friends to vote. This is really important. Thank you guys all for coming out. Have a good night.